listening to the Northern Hunter Podcast, home of all things hunting, fishing, and outdoors in Alaska. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is James Payne, and I hope everybody is having a successful September so far. We've had some beautiful weather thus far in the season. I think we're, the 7th so far, so things have been rolling around for about a week so far, and I've heard of quite a few success stories so far. People getting out after the cranes, and you know, I haven't actually heard of any of our closer friends getting any mooses yet. So we'll see. That's not entirely surprising though for this area. That first week tends to roll a little bit slower. So, but yeah, hopefully everybody's having a great September so far. I've got Carl Roberts here as my co-host for this episode. So thank you for joining us this week. And we're sitting down with Edwin Sanchez. And thank you as well for coming in and spending your afternoon with us.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem at all. We're going to be talking about something else that's an exciting aspect of what you can do in the fall in Alaska that is maybe not as common as people, you know, might be interested in, say, moose and waterfowl, kind of the things we've talked about in the last 3 episodes. But there's a method of fishing that we can do here, which is using spears. Or as we called it back home where I'm from, gigging. So typically referring to frogs in those instances, but it's about the same equipment. So, but I'm excited to pick your brain on that. I appreciate you joining us for this episode. So, before we get into that though, man, I wanted to bring up a story that was sent into the Instagram by one of our listeners. And I don't know how I missed it when it first came out, because I usually keep an eye on these things pretty close. But Nick wrote into the show through the Instagram with a snapshot here. And I really wanted to get you guys' opinions on this. It's not good for the 2 people that were involved, but there's been some development since then. This is an older story. This post came out on August 20th. So many people may have heard of it already, but for those that haven't, it's a good thing to keep an eye on. So I'll just go ahead and start reading here. So in the report here, this is up off the Dalton Highway, but on August 19th, wildlife troopers were advised of a wolf attack at mile 37, resulting in injury of 2 motorists. Investigation revealed a wolf bit the 2 motorists in their lower extremities while they were stopped in a construction zone and out of their vehicle while waiting for the pilot car. The wolf fled into the woods after being shot at by another motorist and is not believed to have been struck. Both individuals received puncture wounds and are receiving medical attention in Fairbanks. AWT was unable to locate the wolf in the area. Later the same day, Alaska Fish and Game has been notified of the attack. Now it says here that Alaska wildlife troopers would all like to remind people of the dangers of feeding wildlife. Even though these individuals were not feeding the wolf, it was observed to be exhibiting behavior indicative of having been fed by other motorists. Feeding wildlife is not only dangerous, but also illegal and punishable with a fine. Referencing Feeding of Game, Section 5, AAC 92.230. So, yeah, good reason to stay strapped when you're even on the road system. You know, it's one thing where, you know, in my line of work, we do communications in rural areas. And it's one thing that I'm very grateful for that the company I work for does allow us to carry on the job, because there are instances where you're doing locates. Like one of our sections, not my department, but one of our departments has been doing locates up and down these highways and everything like that. And you hear of crazy stuff that happens on these road systems with the flaggers and with, you know, people doing locates and things like that. As far as wildlife encounters. But I was wondering, Carl, with all your years at Fish and Game, how often have you heard stories similar to that one?
I don't know that I've ever heard of one where it was habituated to food.
Mm-hmm.
I know of one confirmed, kind of out in the Aleutians.
Okay.
With a fatality. And then there was another one rumored to have happened, trapper
Mm.
No, like I don't wasn't able to confirm it or anything like that, but yeah, it sounds like Wolf tried to get him off of his snow machine,
Whew.
and then the other one was a jogger
Oh, yep.
out for a run.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I've heard stories of joggers down in like the southeast or south central area of the state, getting chased by bears and stuff like that too. I heard one girl actually got attacked. This was a few years ago now, I think. Just out going for a morning jog. So,
but yeah, I mean, wolf attacks are pretty rare.
mm-hmm.
I mean, and just the kind of the way they describe it with the puncture wounds and it was habituated to food or displaying behavior habituated to food is probably thought they had something and tried to.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't describe like where they got bit or, I mean,
mm-hmm.
so without more details, it's probably, my guess is they were out on the ground taking pictures, whatever, and it just was not afraid of them at all, which is
Right.
not normal behavior.
Yeah, I know that I read an update. Like I said, that was in the later part of August. I saw an update on Instagram on the Fishing Games Instagram page that they had gone out and dispatched a wolf that met the description of the one that in the attack. This was like a week or two later, something in that ballpark region. And so they said when they took samples of the stomach content and everything, that it had cooked potatoes and voles in its stomach. And so it had been accessing food somehow.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, human food, not finding potatoes out in the woods. So yeah, I mean, that's not surprising. I mean, that's kind of normal behavior. I mean, think of it in terms of it's almost like a feral dog at that point.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
little skittish of people, but if it's hungry enough and figured out there's food, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. How seriously do these instances get taken as far as resource development?
Pretty serious.
Pretty seriously.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the consideration for rabies, and I'm guessing they're probably going through the rabies protocol.
Yeah.
I mean, which is really unfortunate it does not sound like a fun experience.
Yeah. No, not at all.
But yeah, no, it's pretty serious. I mean,
yeah, they don't write it off as any kind of like a one and done, like, oh, let's see if he comes back and attacks another person or anything like that.
No, I mean, I mean, obviously you had multiple witnesses, you have people that are talking about the situation, people that were actually injured. Like, I mean, it's not just a rumor that somebody got bit or, I mean, something like that. I mean, it's actually like, we've got witnesses, we've got somebody discharging a firearm at a fleeing wolf. And, I mean, there's the whole thing. So yeah, I mean, that would be a pretty serious situation.
Good. Well, yeah, that's a good reminder to just, keep an eye out, even if you're just standing there by the flagger waiting for the truck to come back. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. We live in Alaska, so
that's true.
Yeah, I mean, all those signs that you see that said don't approach wildlife, there's a reason.
Yeah, don't feed the bears, don't feed the wolves. They're fuzzy, but they're
yeah, and they're very curious.
Yes, they are. Yeah, especially the black bears, I've noticed, are curious. And wolves, I've noticed. Wolves. The thing that surprised me in this instance, though, is wolves. I've always known to be very, very skittish to people. Even out in the woods. I mean, you'll see them from 400 yards away, and if they hear your wheeler or something like that, they're
they're bolting out, running away.
They're gone. They don't want nothing to do with us. So I'm curious how the progression goes from that level to, whether it's maybe they got into somebody's camp and found food near that and associated smells with food and stuff like that, but to approach somebody at a vehicle, that strikes me as pretty odd,
Well, I mean, that is a developed behavior, right? I mean, that didn't just happen overnight. And it could be something, I mean, that's the one thing. If they did actually harvest a wolf or, dispatch a wolf that met the behavioral check boxes and had human food in it, probably a good, and who knows? I mean, they might be able to do some DNA stuff, figure out if that's the actual wolf. I know they've done it with bears.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Doing some different things like that and being able to identify if that was the individual. But something like that, obviously, it's probably something that happened. And you're in a construction zone. People are stopping all the time. I mean, who knows how many people stopped and did that and, threw out something to maybe get a better picture of a wolf that was hanging out by the road. And
that's a good point.
or
chuck an old lunch out the window, something like that.
and not like throwing anybody under the bus, but construction worker drops some food and or road flagger or whatever,
Yeah, and then especially when you're that far out, you got the man camps going on. You got
I mean,
a lot of trash
packing
going around.
You're packing your lunch, whatever, and like that's why they're super strict on those camps. Whether it's on the North Slope or mining camps or any of those things, pretty strict about the food control and making sure it's disposed of properly.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much sounds like the whole deal. A fed bear is a dead bear.
Yeah, absolutely.
And probably, I mean, wolves don't seem like that. They would be more standoffish and skittish towards people, but
if they got used to being fed,
that's right.
Then there'll be, a lot more to come in, easier to come in.
Yeah, that skittish nature kind of takes a back seat, and they start understanding. Oh, that means full belly.
Well,
free food.
I mean, without going too far into that, I mean, kind of the same thing with bear baiting, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they developed that whole thing about the safety consideration is overridden by the desire to get fed.
Yeah, the stomach overpowers the brain.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they know you're there and they still come in, right? I mean, and if you
didn't die last time,
and if you didn't have any food there,
right.
Would that bear be more standoffish? Would that bear hang out? Would it hang up out there out of sight?
Right.
I mean, things like that, right? So
would walk past you further up in the brush where you can't see it and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, like, and that's one of the arguments against bear baiting is that you are habituating. But typically that's done far enough out, and I mean, realistically, it's a management technique, right? I mean, you're harvesting bears that would potentially be in urban areas.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, Fairbanks is kind of picket fence of bear baits all the way around it, basically. So,
well, and I think one of the bigger differences there too would be the method in which you're habituating those animals to food is not comparable to, say, traffic or, like a human crowded area. It's one person sitting in a tree or up to 2, maybe 3 if you really want to bring a lot of people out, but that's not recommended. I'll give you that. Yeah. Too many people to be in one bear bait at one time.
Right. But I mean,
but they're not going to be looking at, oh, there's people stopped at traffic. That's where I get food. It's, they're used to a pile under a tree or in a barrel or something like that, I think we're largely safe on that aspect as far as.
No, I mean, I think it just comes down to, not feeding wildlife. And you did rattle off the codified, but I mean, it is on page 18 of the regulations. In the bottom right corner, intentionally or negligently feeding.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, one of those things that we dealt with that a lot. Probably still do. I mean, it's the whole thing about leaving your trash out.
Yep.
Leaving dog food out, things like that. I mean.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing to realize too, I mean, especially for us locals, is that, there is a tourist industry here in Alaska. And not to throw blame anywhere, but, just like you see in Yellowstone a lot, where there's always PSAs coming out about, don't feed the bears in Yellowstone, don't approach the bison in Yellowstone, don't go try to pet the wolves in Yellowstone. Like there's all these things where you get these people that, maybe they grew up in a city or something like that. They don't understand the balance between human and predator
and a wild animal.
Yeah. And so, if in a lot of those, there is a lot of tourism that goes up the haul road, and there's a lot of people that don't live here that go up there, and they might think, like you pointed out, oh, let me get a better picture. I'll throw half my sandwich out there, and as it's coming up to grab it, I'll, be able to snap a good picture and finally get it to come out of the bushes. Yep. Yeah. There's a reason the sayings, like the one you pointed out earlier, fed bear's a dead bear. There's a reason those exist.
Yep. And everybody always wants that closer picture.
Yep. get a bigger lens for your camera.
That is true.
Yeah, it's better to spend the couple grand on a bigger lens than to get a wolf killed just because it got habituated to food. So.
Yeah.
Let alone just your own personal cost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like, rabies is not a joke. I mean, even people that are vaccinated have a fairly high probability of getting rabies if they're bit by a rabid animal.
Yep.
So it's, marginally effective, we'll just say.
Right. How common is rabies here in Alaska? I know it's a pretty common thing down in lower 48, like where I'm from, in the Midwest, it's a lot more like the raccoons and stuff like that.
Yeah. But it's endemic or naturally occurring in coastal Alaska.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
All the way along kind of North Slope all the way around to coastal areas mostly.
Right,
it's pretty restricted to the coastal areas, or naturally restricted to the coastal areas. I don't know how much documentation they have of rabid animals in the interior, but for a long time it was zero.
You're right.
So, but that is something that they check if they can find the cause of the attack, if it's a bear, if it's a wolf, if whatever it is, to confirm that. Chances are, if you get bit by a wild animal, you're probably going to be going through that.
Sure. Yeah. It's better safe than sorry, if nothing else.
Yeah.
But nope. So just be careful out there, folks. They are wild animals. You need to keep them wild. We already domesticated animals a long time ago. We don't need to do it anymore these days. So we've got the ones we need. Well, all right, Edwin. Let's talk about you for a little bit. How'd you get up here to Alaska, and kind of what's your backstory?
I was in the military, in the Army. I came to Alaska, to Delta Junction, to Fort Greely in 1998.
Oof.
Stood a couple of years out there, and then landed up working my way up to Fort Wainwright, up here in Fairbanks.
Gotcha.
And I've been here ever since, and got into the hunting, the fishing, the trapping, and waterfowl hunting, and actually enjoying it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Colorado.
Okay. Yep. Next door neighbors to me.
Oh,
yeah.
nice. Yeah. Yeah. And I loved it. I fell in love with Alaska, with the beauty, both with the summer and with the winter, and just got more involved with it. I started trapping a little bit with a friend, and then got more into that, and been doing that for probably around 20 years or so.
Okay. Yeah.
And then also with the hunting and fishing, and then I got introduced to waterfowl hunting up here in Alaska.
Yeah.
Done quite a bit of that. Hunted for cranes and ducks and geese, and have had a lot of fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
Been up north caribou hunting, and did quite a bit of moose hunting down around the Fairbanks area, and just really, really enjoy it. And I also learned how to archery hunt up here.
Oh, yep.
So that added to it, and then now I'm getting into the muzzleloader shooting.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. What caliber did you go with?
50 cal.
50 cal. Good old 50 cal. Yeah, buddy.
Yes. Yeah. Never thought it would be so fun, but when I started doing it, it actually was really fun. I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, that's definitely a venture I'd be interested in getting into, is more of the muzzle loading stuff. It seems like there's, especially, and there's always that break with the newer muzzle loaders, right? Where it's like, do you go traditional with the old school, or do you go kind of with these newer, setups on the muzzles?
Oh yeah, there's so many different varieties of it, and all of it is fun. It's something learning something new with it, and you do have a lot of fun, and it's pretty amazing how far you can shoot with one of the muzzle loaders.
Right? Yeah. It's more than you think. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That, or you could try the old ways, like with a ball, and try to shoot that and see how far it goes, or the old lead tips.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my buddy, my buddy Andy, he's huge into like the old school muzzle loaders. He loves those things. He's from Arkansas. And, And he's always geeking out about them and looking at new ones, or quote unquote new ones, right? Like new to him online and stuff. And he's got one, man. It's got like a 30-something inch barrel on it, and it's like it's a musket, is what it is,
Yeah.
And he keeps bugging me to take him out on the bear baits and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, and
I think next spring I'll take him up on that. But
yeah, and when you shoot some of them, it's kind of neat because you get that little delay, and then pow, the gun goes off, and then you're kind of hoping you hit the target because of the big old puff of cloud of smoke. So it's pretty fun. Yeah,
right. Yeah, the new ones are pretty interesting looking. And the thing that blows my mind about muzzleloader, I mean, I understand it from like a mechanical creation standpoint, but like they're not expensive to get into. Like it's not a spendy hobby. I mean, you can get the spendy ones, but they've got versions at Frontiers and Sportsman's and whatnot that are pretty affordable for somebody who just wants to tinker around with it and try it out.
Yep, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to try it is because, like you said, it wasn't very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And once you initially get set up with it, then it gets a lot cheaper and easier, and you have a whole bunch of fun with it. You don't have to just hunt with the muzzleloader. You could just go out and shoot at one of the ranges and just have fun seeing where you hit with them.
See what the capabilities are.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I think, it's kind of one of those things where you can develop some consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the biggest thing, right? I mean, it's pretty straightforward what you're doing.
Right, yeah. You're just reloading as you shoot.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But, I mean, the thing I've always wanted to do is get a muzzle-loading shotgun.
Ooh.
And do some waterfowl hunting.
Yeah.
I always figured I'd start with like geese in a field where you got some time and you're not trying to reload this thing in the swamp with ducks coming in on you,
pouring your BBs down the face.
Yeah.
Feeling like you're in the Revolutionary War.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've always thought that'd be kind of fun to do. And but yeah. What'd you do when you were in Delta?
When I was in Delta?
Yeah.
I worked for Range Control as an active duty military person out there. I stood there for around 3.5 years. Just working out there as a range inspector, and I had a really great time out there. A very nice community, beautiful view of the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Learned a lot from a lot of the people out there about Alaskan, how to dress, and vehicle maintenance and all that. For up here in Alaska, so you learn a lot.
The first time you wake up and it's negative 55 and your car goes.
Yes, that and my tires going flat because of the cold air.
Yep.
Yeah.
Takes a couple minutes of driving and then they fill back up with air, and you're like, "How did this just happen?"
Driving on square tires.
Yeah, exactly.
Just waiting for them to warm up so they round out again.
Yeah.
But one of the great, wonderful things about out there is because I started doing more fishing while I was out there, being able to find all the different ponds that were out there. The view was just unbelievable, especially on a blue sky day, even in the winter. And then I got into a lot of different grouse hunting, ptarmigan hunting.
Yeah.
It was pretty neat. Very free out there.
I would say, Delta's definitely a land of opportunity with a lot of different ventures.
Yes.
If you can handle the wind.
Yes. After a while, you don't think about it too much. I mean, you're enjoying too much to even think about the wind.
Right. Keeps the riffraff out, right?
Yes,
exactly.
It does. But it's a wonderful feeling also being out there, especially when you're bird hunting. And you're like the only person out there, and you're seeing birds or you're seeing hares, or you just never know what you're going to see out there.
Right.
And it's kind of that kind of like hunter's paradise of being able to be out there in the field and not see a whole bunch of people, and the animals not always being spooked or anything like that.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's really nice, and then you never know, find blueberries or whatever while you're out there bird hunting, So there's a lot more out there than what a lot of people think.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing I love about being up here is there's so much varied opportunity, right? I mean,
Yes.
like you go out on moose hunt and you're going to be gone for 10, 14 days, whether you're floating or you're flying out somewhere, or just wheelering out, driving out, whatever it might be. But if you're on a body of water or on a hillside, well, while you're calling and you're waiting for moose, you can be, there's berries all over the place. Like you pointed out, you bring out a couple of 1 gallon bags or buckets or something like that with you if you can handle the weight, and you're not restricted to cargo or size, Yep, fill up some berries full of buckets while you're out there. Why not?
Or sit down and have a snack.
Yep. Throw out some burbot lines. Go, you're bored in the middle of the day waiting for the evening hunt. You can go fish for pike and do all kinds of stuff. There's so much opportunity to just, varied. You don't have to be laser focused on one harvest. It's like, it's just everything out here.
Yeah, and you could catch yourself your dinner or whatever, while you're waiting for moose.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. What'd you? She said you came up to Fairbanks after that. Worked your way up here. What were you doing at Wainwright?
Up here at Fort Wainwright, I went to infantry unit.
Okay.
It was 117th Buffaloes. I stood there for quite a while, and then I landed up going to NWTC at the ending of my career and being an instructor out there.
Oh, sweet.
And then from there, I landed up, decided I wanted to stay out here and retired and stood out here and started working with the ranges.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yep. Staying with the military area.
Okay, cool. I may have run into you then out there a couple times.
Oh, okay.
back when I was stationed at Wayne.
Oh, nice. Nice.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, those were always my favorite days going out there to the range, man. That was and I was, I was a signal guy, so I wasn't,
nice.
I was a 25 Charlie when I was in, but so we didn't get to go do range days that often. So for me, it was like a special event.
Yeah, a treat,
like when your mom takes you to McDonald's on your birthday.
Yeah. Kind of have some fun,
Right on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you said you got into a lot of the outdoor stuff pretty quick here. I mean, what was your first venture? Like, what was the first thing you jumped into when you got here?
Actually, out here, I started jumping into all kinds of different hunting and fishing. Like I said, I started out with the bird hunting, doing a little bit of like hare hunting, and then I landed up the first year. I landed up going watching a friend do moose hunting and that, and I really enjoyed that.
Okay.
I was kind of like the camp cook in that, and got to watch.
Hey, every camp needs one, man.
Yeah, exactly. So
you're everybody's favorite person when you're the camp cook.
Exactly. Yeah, so I started doing that, and then I just got more into it. I really enjoy caribou hunting. So I landed up doing a lot of that, not only with the rifle, but then I also started doing the archery hunting up north within the 5 mile corridor with the bow.
Sure, yep.
And then I started getting more into bird hunting with archery also.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that, and then I also hunt moose with the bow also. So it's a variety of different things. I really enjoy all of it, and a lot of it is just being out there in the peace and enjoying, and in the fall weather, the cool air.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've done a lot of that. I've hunted quite a bit, way up north, all the way down southward, and really enjoy it. It's just very relaxing and great food.
Yep. Yeah. That's the best part about it. It's not only it's the peace for the soul. It's good for the soul to be out there and just get that peace and quiet and just lock out society for a little while, and the noise, the horns, the dogs barking, the people arguing, just go enjoy nature. But man, at the end of it, if you're good at it, you get to have some real nice dinners too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but also myself and Carl, we've done a duck hunting together. We've done a good amount of it.
We guided together, yeah.
Yeah, we were guides together for duck hunting.
Perfect.
And also fishing.
Yeah.
So we've done a lot of great, wonderful things together, having a lot of fun and
good.
Just enjoying Alaska.
Yeah. So not to totally derail from our main topic here, but we talked about the duck hunting in a few episodes back.
Uh-huh.
You mentioning bird hunting with archery.
Yes.
I don't know if Alaska has these rules. I know other states do. Is there like a specific kind of equipment you're required to use for archery hunting for birds in Alaska? Because I know in some states there's these special arrows. I forget what they're called right now.
Well,
But,
yeah, I mean, there's like flu,
Yeah,
and there's
the ones that
judo
don't
points.
don't fly so far.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's designed for. So you're not shooting into somebody's backyard or something.
Yeah, that's what I use quite a bit because your arrow isn't flying as fast and it's easier to retrieve them. That way you don't lose them like out in the woods or on the tundra.
Yeah.
It's easier for them to stop on the ground and, you can find your arrow and reuse it again. So.
Right. Yeah, that's...
Yeah, I mean, and I did mine over water.
Yeah, you were telling us about it.
Yeah.
But the silicone floats and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and gobbler guillotines.
Yep.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good way to do it. I'm gonna have to try that. I'm getting my Matthew set up. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Having Screaming Eagle finish it up for me. Finally, man, that's been on the priority list for a while, and I'm finally knocking stuff off my list enough that I'm getting to it. So.
Yeah. And the great thing about it is for the archery, you could go with your compound or you could go with a recurve or a longbow,
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't always have to be just one kind of archery, shooting. It could always be, like me, I enjoy also going with my recurve. And I do with different poundage so I could, be good at both of them. I got a 50-pound bow and a 60-pound bow.
Okay, yep.
And I do both of them so that way I'm proficient, if I ever go hunting with them.
Yeah.
So
Edwin has a 3D range in his yard.
Nice.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I don't have to go far to shoot and practice.
Yeah. What do you have? Like, you probably got a half dozen targets, good sized targets.
Yeah.
Anyway.
At least a half a dozen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. That's what I've been thinking about, setting one up in the new backyard.
Oh yeah.
Because
they're nice and fun, and you don't have to go far.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just walk right through the backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was even thinking about like cutting some trails in, and like that way you can walk down the trail.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
Train shooting through trees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Not through trees. That came out wrong on a podcast. You got to watch how you say things, but in treed areas.
Yes. Yeah. And one of the things I do that kind of helps out also because sometimes friends will come over to shoot on the bow range.
Sure. Yeah.
And they will, try to sight in their bows or get a little bit better with them.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is I've put in carpets as backstops in the back where the targets are. That way the people don't lose their arrows, or it's easier for them to retrieve their arrows back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that way, it's easier for us to find them in that. So.
Right.
Yeah, I pulled a few out of the carpet.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I think that's all of us. Yeah.
No, that's good practice too, though, because I was helping out with it was a youth archery competition. This was last spring, I think it was. I helped out with this, so just set up and tear down and judging and all of that. And so you just kind of escort the kids around, and they're shooting at these 3D targets and everything. And but they had like these big PVC backstops for them. It was like a real heavy duty tarp,
Yeah.
Same thing, because you'd have these kids. And I mean, some of them, it was varied in age range. I mean, I'd be walking, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds through there with real tiny little bows, and they're just, they get the up close, ranges, and then all the way up to, 15, 16-year-olds. And it was nice to be able to find, when the real young kids, go way up high and they shoot over the top of the target and everything, to be able to find it. So
yeah, no, definitely. And it's good that they start out at a young age like that, because as they grow older, they get better and better and better, and then they will teach the younger kids later on in life.
Oh man, some of the older teenagers that were doing that, there's some good archers that are at young age. I mean, these kids were, they were grouping tight,
Nice.
And you could tell who was really into it and who was kind of there because like maybe dad made them go, but like,
well, I mean, and probably the coolest thing about archery is minus, wearing out your target. It's pretty cheap.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, you might have to refletch some arrows. You might have to get, eventually get some new arrows, but I mean, you're going to get a lot of shooting in.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm so excited with this this new Matthews I've got. And I've been talking about it for a little while now. Like I said, it's been on the priority list for some time. But you know, I've always shot bows that were too small for me, and so my form is crap. It's, you know, horrible because I'm used to, you know, having my draw length not be what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so this new Matthews that I've got, it's the Atlas, and it's got up to a 34-inch draw that you can do on that, and I'm not far from that. So, yeah, the guys at Screaming Eagle have done a great job getting that set up for me and everything. And but they're, you know, some of the setup stuff is expensive. I'll say that. You know, like the rest I want, cost. Yeah, the sights I want, things like that. Because I'm not. I mean, I could go with the basic, but
yeah, but I mean, you could starting out, you could do it with the basic stuff, and
absolutely,
you can, and that's a nice thing is you can always add on.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like, oh well, that's, you know, you get your money's worth out of that site, and then you can go to the next site and you get more pins or whatever it is, right? Different rests.
Yeah, and especially depending on your application for it. You know, if you're only getting a bow to go use it to bait, you know, you only need one pin.
Yeah,
like, you know, you know, depending on how far away your barrel is from your stand, but you know, realistically, like you don't need a 5-pin adjustable sight to go run a bear bait. Like, you know, like it's controlled area, controlled environment. You know, like you can mark out your trees. You know, take your rangefinder up in your stand. You know, this tree is this. You know, this tree is that. The barrel's this. You know, so wherever it's walking in from, you know where it's going to be and where it's going to, you know. But you know,
one of my good buddies, he used to always make me carry a judo with. And pick out a leaf and shoot it, you know, next to the barrel, whatever. And, you know, okay, cool. Yep, we got that dialed.
Yep, exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, there's...
Yeah.
It's a good situation for archery hunting. That's...
Yeah, and in that instance, I mean, you wouldn't need the $500, you know, spot hog sight, you know, and all that jazz. So,
yeah.
But...
and the bow will last you forever.
It will.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you take care of them.
Yeah. Take care of it. It will last forever.
Maintain your strings, maintain your cams and all that jazz. Yep. Make sure you're doing all your yearly maintenance and everything. That's the only time I've seen like these compound bows have problems is when they get abused and they don't get taken care of, you know. Used well, put away wet kind of situation, you know.
I mean, I know a couple of people that have had some issues doing like that November moose hunt.
Oh, yeah.
When it's 25 below zero.
Sure, yeah.
You start...
I know there's
slinging arrows at those temperatures, and
I know I have heard there's specific setups you want for that. But yeah, I think that might be a little bit more specialized Alaskan.
Damage. Oh yeah. But I mean, like, other than a handful of things, or I mean, if you were really, really ambitious and do the corridor hunt late, you know, like October time frame, and then you're doing it mostly in the dark anyway. So.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, other than a few situations like that, I mean, it's not usually super cold.
Right.
Yeah, the only problems I've ever had when I've been archery hunting was up north within the 5-mile corridor, and it was with the snow.
Yeah.
And my trigger was starting to freeze up, and it's just because snow and stuff or sweat from my hand would get on the trigger and kind of freeze it up.
Yeah.
So what I landed up having to do was just stick an extra trigger in my pocket.
Yeah.
So I would switch them around that way.
Gotcha.
That way it wouldn't keep freezing up.
Sure. Yeah.
And if one was freezing up, then I could slowly slip it off and put the other one on my hand.
Got your backup.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that helped me out quite a bit.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't think if I was doing that drive, I don't think I'd go up there without two.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, anybody that's listened to this show for a while knows I'm a huge fan of redundancy. Yeah. Redundancy is everything to me. I bring two of everything if I could.
Yes.
And but I hadn't even thought about two triggers. That's genius. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I lost my quiver.
Did you really?
1 year, yeah.
Oh,
but
man.
I had arrows and I had extra broadheads, and so I mean, I was carting around arrows in a mountain house sack. So
got to do what you got to do.
That's right. Yeah. So, Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know that I would carry a second quiver, but yeah, I mean, you should notice if you lose that. But
Right.
I didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I 100% agree with that. Definitely having a second
Yeah.
release is a big one. Or
Yeah.
if you're running fingers, you're running tabs, having
Right.
a couple.
Extra, yeah.
Well, and the good thing with some of these hunts, I mean, like if you're going up there and doing a corridor caribou hunt, like in the wintertime, you're gonna have your truck.
Yes.
You're not weight restricted. Like
Yeah,
it's not like you're trying to save
Yeah.
weight and space and do all this confined, ounce counting stuff. It's like, no, if you want to have, a whole set of extra arrows in your truck or even an extra quiver just in case, like let's say you upgraded your old one, well, keep the upgraded one on your bow, keep the old one, just keep it in the truck just in case, who knows? Like, who knows what's going to happen? So Alaska's going to Alaska,
Yeah. And that's kind of what I do is whenever I go up north, you do spend quite a bit of money to go up north. So you don't want to land up having to turn around and come back.
Exactly.
So I always bring double of everything because you just never know what could happen to your bow or to some of your arrows. So I always bring a good amount of arrows, but not just one type. I bring arrows for ptarmigan, so I could shoot if I'm not seeing caribou. If I see ptarmigan, then I could shoot the ptarmigan.
Absolutely.
And then I bring my better arrows for the caribou hunting.
Yeah. Genius.
Because I would not want to shoot, a very expensive arrow and
Sure.
broadhead at a ptarmigan and then lose my arrow. And now I'm down $30.
Yep.
On one arrow when I could have shot a $3 arrow.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, and that's just the archer's equivalent of carrying a shotgun with you while you're driving around looking for caribou up off some of these other areas and, the Steese area or anywhere like that, like, oh, they're not here, but there's ptarmigan, like.
Yeah. There's other opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in an archery, it's not like, oh, I'm going to spook off everything in the valley when I whack that ptarmigan with my bow.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. When you go that far, you want to get as much as you can, different species of animals, ptarmigan, grouse, whatever. So, you take extra arrows for whatever you're going to go after.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing with Alaska making you earn everything.
Yes.
Is you take every opportunity it'll give you.
Yes, exactly.
That's right.
Like, don't short opportunities because that might be what you get. You might think you're going on a caribou hunt, but Alaska's decided you're going on a ptarmigan hunt.
Ptarmigan hunt.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
And that's the opportunity you get today. So don't waste it.
Yeah, exactly.
And Carl had mentioned earlier, just one more thing I wanted to pick your brain on. So he'd mentioned you spent a lot of time helping new guys get out there and kind of experience the woods as well, and kind of getting people into the outdoors.
Get them involved in that. Yes. I try to help out, especially a lot of new younger soldiers that come to Alaska and taking them out, say on the trap line, or take them out fishing, or take them out small game hunting, because a lot of them, they don't know a whole lot about Alaska on what they can or can't do or what equipment they need.
Right.
So a lot of them, they are interested. They do want to go out. They just don't have anybody to really show them. So a lot of times I'll invite them to go with me, and I will show them that it's not as hard as they think it would be.
Right.
And kind of lead them in the right direction, that if they want to continuously do these things, that they could follow through with it and see that it's all doable. So a good example is I've taken some friends, young soldiers. I've taken them out on my trap line, and I've let them see and show them how I set everything up and show them that it's not very difficult. And I do explain to them, no matter what you do out here, the initial cost will be a little bit more. But once you get settled into whatever you're going to do, well, then it gets a lot cheaper and a lot easier. And the more experience, the more they keep doing it, the more experience they're going to have. And then they could go do the stuff out on their own or show their friends that it's not so difficult.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of them do enjoy it. I've had some friends that have never bird hunted, and they went for the first time and they fell in love with it, and they went out and bought shotguns and a bunch of shells and everything they needed, to go
What does
bird
that sound
hunting.
like?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that, and then duck hunting.
Yeah.
Some of them are amazed when they're able to go hunting, talk with each other, drink some coffee, and then, see ducks and get excited to shoot them. And then when they get them, they're very excited that, hey, I could do this. I got a duck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling that they're learning and that they could pass it on to other friends too, that it's not so difficult.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, there's that intimidation factor where Alaska is so big and there is so much to a lot of these things. And, there's not a ton of information about how to do a lot of it specific to the area that you're in. And I think, the willingness to take somebody out and kind of show them the ropes initially and everything, that's a huge thing, because I know from experience myself trying to get into this world, fairly solo at first, before getting into groups where people were taking me out and stuff like that, is you can burn a lot of money doing stuff the wrong way and time is the other thing.
I was going to say time is the big one, especially like, somebody that's here 3 years, whatever they're here for Fort Wainwright, you don't, maybe you got 3 full summers.
Right. Yeah.
You don't want to be burning that trying to learn how to fish.
Exactly.
And
finally figure it out right before you ETS.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not conventional.
Yeah.
Right. Most of what you're doing here is not conventional to everywhere else, whether it's your hunting, whether it's your fishing, you go salmon fishing. It's not conventional to,
right.
It's the absence of the pause. It's not when something's tugging on the line, it's the absence of the pause.
Yeah.
Just kind of things like that you wouldn't know unless you did it,
right.
or somebody explains it to you. And it took me a long time for people even explaining it to really fully understand it. And so, yeah.
Yeah. For me, me personally, I hate seeing a person go out and buy all this gear and fishing stuff or hunting stuff that they don't really need, or it doesn't pertain to what they're going after.
Right.
So I really try to help out a lot of these people and tell them, hey, this is what I use. This is, your better buy for your money, and
absolutely,
and stuff that they don't need, don't spend their money on it. They could spend their money on something else.
Right. Well, and especially for our military members up here, because I don't know what the pay scale is right now, but when I first moved here, I think I was making like $1,700 or $1,800 a month.
Yeah.
It wasn't much.
Not a whole lot.
It's not a lot,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But if they could find out, exactly what they need so they could save money on it, and then somebody to show them, where to go fishing or where to go hunting, and show them, what kind of terrain to look for whatever animals,
right.
It helps them out a lot. They build confidence. They enjoy it more because there's nobody out that likes to go out and then not ever get anything.
Right.
So, if
they're called photographers.
Yes. But if you go out and, you help them out a little bit, they really appreciate it. They have fun, then they're successful and they'll want to do it more. And, then they pass it on to some of their friends, and, then everybody has a good time.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Continues on the passion.
Yes, exactly.
Well, and that's how we learned.
Yeah, exactly.
People showed us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people just keep kind of passing it on. And, we talked about that a lot on the show, too. It's sad because a lot of these guys, when they come up here, like with me, it's kind of a new world, and maybe you didn't do a lot of hunting back home, or you didn't do a lot of, trapping back home. We did, some back where I was from, but nothing compared to like Alaska.
No, definitely.
And, and so when I got up here, when you're especially in the military, it's hard to get into some of those groups and stuff like that.
Yes.
I will say arguably there's a lot more resources now to get out and get education, right? Like we've got, we've got a young man I'm trying to bring on the show here soon, and he's done a phenomenal job of that. He's actually on Wainwright right now. I think he's about to get out, but no pressure. He listens to the show. But no, just kind of, on that. And he's done a phenomenal job of getting involved every which way and being successful. Same thing, trapping and hunting and all this different stuff and really just diving headfirst into the world. And it's a great example of what you can do, what's accomplishable.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not as intimidating as it seems.
No, it's not. You just got to go out.
Get your boots wet.
Yeah, get your boots wet. Go out there. Talk to people that you see that go out and do it. Ask questions and, ask them if you could tag along. Here are there, and most people will say yes. And most people, they enjoy other people's company while they're out there doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fishing, hunting, whatever, because then you could help each other out, and then you just keep building it up, your skills better and better and better, and then you'll be the one out there teaching other people.
Exactly. Yeah, that's awesome. So, well, let's take a break real quick, and then we'll jump into the main subject.
All right, folks. We all know that one of the most common mishaps in hunting is damage to your rifle scope. Last year, I found the solution to that problem with the Stealthy Hunter rifle cover. It wraps around your scope and action securely to protect it from getting knocked off of zero or even severely damaged. Stealthy Hunter also has a glassing pad and a wide variety of supplements for the outdoorsman, such as protein powder, CBD products, turmeric, and gut health supplements. They also make a lightweight trauma kit weighing in at just 14 ounces that includes everything you need and nothing you don't for all of your backcountry medical emergencies. To shop all of their equipment and supplements, go to StealthyHunter.com and enter the discount code at checkout, The Northern Hunter, to save on your order today. All Stealthy Hunter equipment is proudly made in the USA.
All right, so I know we talked about it during the break, but I just wanted to say this is one reason I love bringing individuals like yourself onto the show that have been in Alaska for a while and doing this for a while. Is we came in to talk about spearfishing, ended up having a whole other conversation about other things, and it's wonderful to see the multifaceted nature of what being an outdoorsman in Alaska means. It's like you're not good at just one thing.
Oh, there's so many things to do out here.
Yeah.
You finish one thing, something else is coming up, and then once that's finished, something else pops up that you want to do.
Exactly. So. Well, it always ends up feeling like we're chasing our own tails, right?
True. And when you're not doing it, you're getting ready for the next one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've actually come to a point where I've started to think 2 seasons ahead. Where it's moose season right now. I'm already thinking about predator hunting. I'm already thinking about trapping, and just trying to get ahead of the game because, otherwise you focus too much on where you're at right now, and then you get to the next thing, and you're not ready.
Yeah,
No, I mean, when I put in, moving into my house, right? I'm putting away stuff in an order that I'm going to be able to what I'm going to need next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even just fishing gear. Right, I'm
sure.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna make sure I got all my ice fishing stuff, or
right.
whatever I'm gonna do the next go round is up at the front.
Yeah,
right? Whether it's trying to get in some lake trout fishing or whatever it is, to trying to get that set up ahead of time so that if I'm putting it away and I'm organizing, I'm gonna put it in the order that I'm gonna use it. Right.
Yep.
And like you said, I mean, it might even come down to okay, cool. Next spring when I'm getting the boat out of the mothballs. I want all this stuff here because this is the first thing I'm going to do with it, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Get your beaver hunting set up ready first, and then this, and
he's done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that's the great thing I love about the new house my wife and I are getting into is they have this already built in the garage area are those tote racks. So it's 3 wide, 5 tall, double-sided tote racks on each side of the garage door. And oh man, so because the system I've been using, I just have a shed at my current place, and so all of the totes are just stacked on top of each other, and it's the worst thing in the world when you get in there for spring and all your camo netting for your bear bait, it's in the bottom tote, and you got to take everything off the top, and it's I'm so excited for more organization, man. That's going to be great, but.
Yeah, and the cool thing about out here is there's just so much, not only for hunting, but also for fishing, because you got lake fishing, you got river fishing, you got saltwater fishing.
Yeah.
You got to be able to organize it all because it's just one season and after another. You jump from fishing at a lake to fishing to the salt water and then to a river, so all of that, and then the hunting stuff.
And then you're getting your ice fishing stuff ready.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's a whole nother setup.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and that's it's funny. So anybody that's listening to the show knows I've got the fishing bug this year for some reason. I lost it for like 3 years where I just didn't care about fishing at all. And then all of a sudden this year I woke up and I'm like, man, I really want to chase fish this year. Like I really want to get this thing nailed down. And that's kind of been my main focus is like getting more of the fishing stuff. So went down and spent more time on the coast doing, saltwater fishing than I normally do. And we went out and got all of our salmon in Chitina and whatnot. Cause I'm not talking like I'm just into like fly fishing or anything like that. I want to, like, I'm diving into every different method. Right. And my wife actually pointed out to me, she said it was funny that I'm getting the fishing bug, but I'm actually going the opposite direction. Like a lot of people, they get really into like the fly fishing and kind of the more peaceful methods. And I'm just like, nope, I want the thing that's going to kick the crap out of me. Like, I want to be out there and just, be like dip netting and reeling up, 100-pound skates from 300-foot depths. I mean, by the time you get it up there, it's, you're just,
you can be sore
totally
the next day.
Beat. Yeah. And she's like, you can't just sit on a shoreline and be, passive. And I'm like, no, I'm not that kind of fisherman. But which kind of brings up the concept of what I wanted to talk to you about today, which is the opportunities we have up here for spearfishing.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about like what kind of got you into that up here. I mean,
actually, Carl got me into
nice.
spearfishing. Him and his friend Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking to me about the spearfishing, and I was able to get a permit for it 1 year, and they took me out to go spearfishing, and I had to learn it from zero because I thought we were going in the day, but we landed up going in the night.
Right.
And then they said, dress very warm because it's going to be a little bit cooler,
mm-hmm.
and make sure you have a really strong headlamp.
Yeah.
And then they actually lent me a gig. It was a 4 or 5 prong gig. And then they started teaching me, and I really didn't know on how deep of water I needed to stand in.
Mm-hmm.
So I go out a little bit deeper from Carl's friend, Kyle. And I'm standing almost in waist deep water trying to see if I could see a fish. And then I look behind me, and Kyle already speared one.
Oh, really?
He speared one behind me. And then I'm like wondering, like, wow, this must have been a lucky fish. And then a little while after, he spears another one behind me. So then I start talking, and hey, how come these fish are behind me and not in front of me? And they kind of explained to me, Carl and Kyle, and how to fish for these things and the way to keep my spear in the water so that way I don't spook them so they don't swim forward. And then they told me kind of, aim forward of the fish, a little bit towards its head and that, because by the time I move and spear at it, well, it's going to move a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing that, and I actually got lucky. That day I landed up getting 4 fish, which I was super excited because I was just happy to get one.
Yeah, I'll say it's better than being skunked on your first trip.
Yeah. And then we came another time, me and Kyle, and I was able to complete my limit of fish. But it was neat. It was a different experience. It was fun.
Yeah.
We had a little fire that we made, so that way if you got cool, you could get warm.
Sure, yeah.
And then we seen a bunch of other people that were spearing for whitefish. So it wasn't just like we were alone. It was kind of like a gathering of people having a great time, having fun.
Yeah.
And then I landed up smoking the fish.
Okay.
And they came out awesome.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Yeah.
And
I've heard those whitefish are really good eating.
Yes. And I fell in love with the Cisco's. Them smoked very well, and I really, really liked them. So now it's become a family tradition for us to try to get a permit, and then when we get it, now the whole family comes out to try to get the fish, and and they all love it.
Yeah,
you know, it's a good, getting ready for the winter thing to do.
Oh, sure, yeah, it just adds a little bit,
more fun and enjoyment before winter comes in.
Yeah, and to that note, I mean, that's a wonderful thing about back to the whole concept of how many opportunities there are here.
Yes.
I mean, if your hunting season only consists of August and September, because you're just really focused on caribou and moose and whatnot, then you're really focused on getting that big amount of meat all at one time, right? You got to get that moose to keep the freezer full.
Yep.
When you take advantage of all these different opportunities, I mean, we're going into moose season right now, and honestly, if I get one, I don't know where I'm going to put it. Because we've been filling the freezer with fish, we've been filling the freezer with bear, we've been filling the freezer with different stuff like small game and all these different things that add up over the year, to where you don't need to get 600, 400 pounds of meat in 1 month if you get if you're adding consistently every month of the year. And so it's a really cool thing about living here and being able to live this life is like little things like this, being able to go out and do some spearfishing, in addition to just being fun. It's a great way to add pounds,
right? Yeah. I mean, you're not going to subsist off of 10 Cisco's.
No, you're not. No.
But
not solely.
No,
but it's a nice addition.
And it's a variety. I mean, like a little bit different. Smoked fish here, something different than salmon or, I mean, it's just a fun opportunity. And it's kind of, like you said, it's more of a social gathering, really, where you get everybody's standing and you get I mean, when I first started doing it, it wasn't even a permit. It was like they had stand in line.
Oh, okay. Kind of first come, first serve.
And there were, when it first started, it was, I can't remember how many permits they were giving out, but, I mean, we'd have people lined up around the building.
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
And if there were, usually if there was one left over, I'd get a permit and go. And one year there was one left over and he's like, hey, I want to go, and so we did it and it was fun. I mean, we used to take pallets. We would take it like a 2-place trailer out there and fill it up with pallets and just have a big pallet fire and
buddy,
go warm up and camp out. I mean, I remember waking up to snow on the tent, camping out there. I mean, one year I went and it was literally the river froze up overnight.
Oh yeah.
Like woke up in the morning and you were done spearfishing for the season. So
yeah. We'll talk a little bit about that. What about the opportunity that we have up here, and any others in the state that you might know of? But like, because up here, so we have the Chattanooga River, which is just north of town.
Personal use permit.
And it's a draw system through Fish and Game.
It's a drawing permit for 10 fish per household, I believe.
Okay. Is that 10 total or 10 per day?
10 total.
10 total. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, it was historically one of those things that people did a lot of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how far back it goes or, to what extent, but I mean, whitefish is the kind of the nice thing about whitefish is they're fall spawning.
Right.
And so they're moving. That's why they're all moving up the Chattanooga in October is to go spawn. And so if you didn't fill the freezer when you needed it or you had a bad salmon season, whatever. I mean, there's still more opportunity to get some more fish, and so I mean, and I'm sure there was, net fisheries for them, and I know guys that run fish wheels catch a ton of whitefish when they're doing the fall chum, or if there was a silver commercial season, things like that, you'd have people catching whitefish in there, and
I know that the application period for this one is, I think it's about a month long during August, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
Close to it.
Yeah. And then you apply online and you go through and then they do it. It's similar to the other draws that we do.
Yeah,
it's a lottery system. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there are other places. I don't know of any good concentrations of whitefish.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sure somebody at Fish and Game could probably give you a few pointers on places you could go that don't require a permit, but it's not 20 miles out of town or 15 miles north of town. And it won't be a big social gathering. I mean, I've heard of people doing it through the ice.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure. Yeah.
Maybe when the fish are leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Spearfishing, sitting out on the ice, and when I first started doing it, we were using the minutia of doing this. We were using lanterns,
Oh yeah. Yep.
and I actually really like that warm light versus like an LED light. Obviously LEDs are way brighter, but you get a different reflection on the fish.
Okay. Yeah.
And for whatever reason, because you're only allowed to spear Cisco's and broad whitefish.
Okay. Yep.
I think there's some humpbacks too.
Mm.
But you can't spear sheefish and you can't spear grayling.
So, yeah, you can't just be out there indiscriminately.
No.
Yeah. You got to know what you're aiming at.
And
yeah.
And the sheefish are twice the size. Even a small sheefish is twice the size of most of the other. You get some of the big broad or humpback whitefish, and you could mistake a bit if it's that big. You may not spear it.
Right. Yeah.
But that for whatever reason the grayling don't have the same reflection. Different scales, different.
Mm-hmm.
But
different shapes too. Yeah.
Yeah. When you're looking down at it,
sure.
it's not
from a top view, you might not notice.
Yeah. If you're really looking, you'll see the dorsal fin. And,
right. Yeah.
But that it almost that warmer light almost makes them like glow.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Compared to like a pure white light LED. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, when I first started, I was putting tinfoil on half of the lantern so you weren't blind trying to do this, and
sure.
standing there with a spear in one hand and a lantern in the other trying to
yeah.
And then we had like team spearing, where somebody'd stand with the lantern and stand out there and freeze while you stood there with the spear, and you always stood behind him. You didn't want to take one in the foot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which is a real concern, I'm sure.
And then, I've done it out of a boat. That was a different experience.
I've heard of people doing it out of boats. Yeah. I was talking to one gentleman about that. He said they'd kind of beach up on this little island or something like that in the river, and then they'd go off the backside of it.
Oh, we were drifting.
We were drifting? Yeah.
Yeah. We actually hung the lantern up on the front of the boat and just everybody spearing out the side. And it was kind of fun, but more challenging because you're moving, right?
Yeah, they're moving, you're moving.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as, like I said, just kind of developed and, got fancy headlamps and kind of a dual purpose thing. You need a headlamp here all winter anyway. And
yes,
having good headlamps for trapping.
Higher power's better. As long as you balance the battery life with it.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
I know. One of the biggest things when you're out there fishing for whitefish is during the nighttime. It's kind of funny because everything be dead quiet, and then a beaver will slap its tail and your heart will start pounding. So that's one thing you got to watch for. Watch for swimming beavers.
Sure.
Yeah, your heart start pounding in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, especially when you're not expecting it, or you're, it swims behind you, and you're in like knee deep water, and
Yep.
Yeah, and they scare the heck out of you.
Oh, yeah. Well, in anything, when you're out there and it's dead quiet like that, it's amazing how these tiny sounds that you're used to so much can just be amplified.
Exactly.
I can only imagine, a beaver slapping its tail when you're focused, looking straight down, and you're not.
Oh, yeah. One of the coolest things out there is when it's really dark, a lot of times you'll see the northern lights.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at the lights, being on the water like that,
oh yeah,
it's a really good feeling and fun, exciting. And then you see the campfires where people have fires out there, enjoying the night spearfishing, and it's pretty neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What kind of gear do you guys bring with you? Do you have like a specific kind of gig you like? I don't know if there's like a lot of different brands or anything, or if there's.
The only thing I would say is stay away from the big, heavy pike spears. They're awesome for pike spearing, but if you got to lift that thing up and jam it in, first of all, if you're buying a really nice, expensive spear for like what they, usually they're made like places like Minnesota where they do a lot of pike spearing.
Mm-hmm.
They're heavy. You're gonna be missing a lot.
Yeah.
I promise.
Someone's like trying to sling one of those like ice chippers.
Oh, yes,
around.
yes.
Yeah. And so something
Win.
lighter. And then plus, you're gonna be mashing into the gravel a lot.
Right.
And so you take something really nice and do that a bunch of times, you're gonna be pretty disheartened when you ruin your $100 spearhead.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the flat, like kind of the trident looking ones that are like 5 prongs or whatever, or something like that.
Yep.
And they're actually kind of cheap metal.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
You can touch them up if you need to and
Exactly.
whatnot. Yeah.
that's what they taught me, because the first time I really went, I kind of dulled it
Yeah.
really quick, hitting rocks and stuff.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine.
And then they said, hey, the file it down so that way it's nice and sharp again. And,
Yeah.
and that was something I learned. I never thought you would ever need a file to go
Mhm.
spearfishing.
Yeah. And the other thing I like to do is touch up the barbs.
Yeah.
Get
Yep.
the barbs real. I mean, I've even taken a grinder and cut extra barbs in there if
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of hard. I mean, you got to do it with a Dremel or something small because you're not getting a regular grinder in 1 inch gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That there'll be people that are trying to do it with those like the frog gig spears that are like
Mhm.
the square shaped ones. You just got a lot more aiming distance when you're, when you got 5 inches, because they're about an inch apart, give or
Okay.
take.
Yep. Yeah. A lot more forgiving, you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I learned from them also is a wood pole for your gig,
Mm.
because your hands stay warmer that way
Yeah.
compared
Right.
to metal or
Yeah.
aluminum.
Yep. I could definitely see that. And
Yeah.
do they sell? I'm assuming they sell just the spearheads.
Yeah.
You can put just about
Yeah.
any handle you want on those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Similar like a rake head or something like that would be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I actually had like I wouldn't say collapsible ones, because first time you take that and you jam into the mud, it's going to be about a foot and a half long. Right? But some way to like break it down,
Mhm.
because it's not a chitna length. You're not talking 10 feet, but
Sure.
you want an honest, 6 to 8 feet probably.
Yeah, 6 to 8 feet,
Mm-hmm.
depending on how deep you're going to be in the water.
Yeah. No.
And obviously waders.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's cold.
Yeah.
I mean, usually there's ice.
Yeah.
You're not dodging icebergs, but it's definitely, there's ice on the shore. And like I said, I mean, woke up and they're frozen. So,
Oh, sure.
Thermals and the really thick socks will help out a lot.
Sure,
And
yeah.
thick gloves.
yeah.
Well, and the thing I like with the later season stuff like that, and I haven't had the opportunity to draw the spearfishing tag yet. I keep putting in, but they don't like me or something. I don't know. So, but the higher gram insulation is big, but I'm a real big fan of the built-in boots.
Yeah.
I've used the ones that just have the kind of the neoprene socks built in with them, where you put the shoes on over. And man, when my feet have froze in those things.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're in Alaskan waters, I mean, it's just those built-in boots are really where it's at for me. That's my recommendation.
I mean, there's a couple of reasons for that,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, stocking foot waders, where you put on wading boots, are way more comfortable.
Yeah.
And if you're doing a lot of walking, you're doing a lot of traveling.
Mm-hmm.
It's way easier to walk in. I mean, big clunky rubber boots and neoprene waders are not where you want to be trekking 2 or 3 miles to your salmon fishing spot.
No.
When you get into boot foot waders, you don't get as much compression on your feet.
Right. Yeah.
There's that resistance is there, so you're not losing circulation in cold water. And
exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
then you put your nice thick wool socks on, and now it's even tighter in those little.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I like my boot waders because man, I can throw. I've got my thermals, I got my nice wool socks, my insulated sweatpants and everything, and then those go on, and man, it's super warm.
Yes, comfortable.
But, comfortable, and like you said, it's not. You don't get that compression around your feet.
Right.
Because man, when we were down deer hunting in Southeast, and that's when I really decided I didn't like the boot ones or the neoprene sock style,
the stocking foot,
stocking foot, because that's like the 2 things I remember about that whole trip was like, or 3 I should say, is like the enjoyment of shooting deer, obviously, and harvesting deer.
Yes.
But and then like the warmth of the fire in the evening. and how every time I wasn't near that fire, my feet were cold.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Oh.
Those are the three things that I took away from that trip. So,
yeah, I mean, they're definitely like, I mean, without going down that rabbit trail too far, I mean, that's a gear selection thing in Alaska for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've had like 2,000 gram thin slit boots and use those for salmon fishing, and they're awesome if you're, and it wasn't combat fishing, but you're standing in the water for a long time.
Right.
It's way warmer. I mean, even in the middle of summer, it's still, 38 to maybe somewhere up to 50 degrees. But I mean, most of it's substantially colder water.
Sure. Yeah.
But then I also have, had experiences where I like stocking foot waders. If you're walking somewhere, they're usually, either breathable or Gore-Tex or whatever flavor. But the one thing about that is making sure you got boots that fit.
Yes.
Because if your foot is sliding on a wet surface inside of a boot all day, you're going to hate life. But that's not any different than having a boot foot wader.
True.
Where you're sliding around inside of that. And so, I mean, if you're going to be walking.
Yeah. Would you say for an opportunity like this, would hip waders be a better option, or do you still prefer chest waders?
Oh, I would prefer chest waders.
Mm-hmm.
Not even necessarily for the. I mean, you probably don't need to wade that deep,
right?
But just how warm, they're warmer.
Yep,
they're holding heat a little bit better. I mean,
yeah. For me, I like chest waders, and the reason why is when I just started out spearfishing, I kind of lost my balance and almost went for a dive.
Oh no!
So that kind of saved me from getting super wet.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely chest waders.
And one thing for me, one reason I like chest waders, and I've experienced this with different avenues where I'm in water or around water, is I like the ability to kneel down if I need to.
Yes.
And maybe it's not often you have to do that, but you can't do that in hip waders.
No.
Like not to the extent you can in chest waders.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're trying to get down, like let's just say beaver trapping, for instance, if you need to kneel down for whatever reason to work on something, just to make it easier on yourself, just so your back's not hurting, it's not a problem. If you're, I'm assuming in an instance like this, let's say something gets hung up or you just want to kneel down for whatever reason. Like, I like that it adds that flexibility to your movement. You don't just have to stay upright, Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's a good use for hip waders.
Mm-hmm.
But for the vast majority of what you do in Alaska, chest waders are, because you never know how it's going to be. You never know if it's going to be deep, if it's going to be, I mean, and it may only be 6 inches deep, but it's squishy.
Yeah.
And you're sinking in another, 6 inches more, and now you're up to the top of your knees, and you're like trying not to go over the top of splash over the top of your waders, or, different things like that. Or if you need to sit down.
Yeah. And me, I like chest waders, not only for like spearfish and the whitefish, but also I take them sometimes hunting with me, and not only river fishing, but with the hunting when it's a really wet, rainy season. A lot of times the chest waders, keep you warm and dry.
That's the other thing that are great about them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could wear my fishing boots, over my, chest waders, and I know I'm going to stay dry, and I'm not going to get cold.
Sure. Yeah.
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 But then they also keep me very, very warm during the spearfishing.
Yeah. Do you have like a specific brand you like that you'd want to throw out there?
I like Sims.
Sims? Yeah.
I like them. They're a little bit thicker. But I really like Sims. They're a good brand for me.
Yeah. Yeah. They've got a lot of options too.
Yes.
Is one thing I like about them. Yeah. How about you, Carl?
Waders that fit.
Waders that fit.
I mean, waders that you're not swimming in. Like, and looking into options for talls or stouts or.
Yes.
And somebody that, like any company that offers that. And, I mean, Fairbanks, you're kind of limited in supply of what you get. I mean, there's plenty of places that have them, but they may not always have the size you want or whatever.
Yep.
And so finding waders that fit and are not, like, if you've got waders that are too tight, you're going to be losing, if they're bunching up, you're going to be pulling like your pants off.
Yeah.
Like, and now you've got that gap down by your ankle where it's cold. And I mean, sure, if you've got, waders pants that have stirrups on the bottom to keep them from pulling up, but now that's digging into your foot because it's all bunched up by your knee, and
many things to consider. Yeah,
waders that fit, seriously, whether it's boot foot, stocking foot. I mean, and okay, for sure they're warmer if you go with the boot foot, but at the end of the day, if you could only buy one pair of waders, I would probably still go with stocking foot waders. For most of what you do here,
as more of a dual kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to buy one pair of waders, I would probably look at Simms. And they're more durable. The warranty's really good too.
Yeah.
Not that helps you if it's the middle of salmon season and you got to send them back to get them repaired, but
right.
But yeah, it's it's kind of one of those things where if I had one, that's what I would do. I use them duck hunting, I use them moose hunting. In like breathables, for the majority of what you do in the summer. Yeah, I mean, there's times where they're not warm enough, but yeah. And you can roll them down. If it's really hot outside, you're standing there, you can roll them down. Kind of my go-to actually for a lot of stuff is waist waders.
Yeah,
like the
wader pants.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's a lot of good options for those too. I mean, even like there's certain hunting clothing brands that will make some of those. In addition to just like Simms and whatnot. But,
oh wow.
There's good options for that too out there.
Yeah, and the other thing about it is neoprene waders are not as durable.
They're not. Yeah,
and they're made. And I've seen plenty of good waders for waterfowl hunting, and you go take a moose hunting, and they're going to have holes in them instantly from all the little willows and stobs and
and one good thing with the Gore-Tex style, like the breathable waders is, and that was the style I had Simms waders down there in Southeast when we were deer hunting. And when you poke holes in those, we had patches that you could put in, with tenacious tape and things like that. And, you could repair them on the fly, pretty easily. And to even the same, not without even having to go back to camp, without having to do anything, so you kneel down on some rocks to take a shot and poke a hole in them, and well, you can fix them. You're not stuck with anything like. Now I have used and I still have a pair of the super cheap, like the Rustic Ridge neoprene ones, 1,000-gram insulation. And I will say, if you're on a budget and you just want to get out there and do it, they do work.
They do, yeah.
And they keep you dry. And the one thing I do like about them is they have a lot of different sizes.
Yeah.
They're very size flexible. So they have talls, they have shorts, they have, different boot sizes for different waist sizes and things like that. You can really get one that as you say, fits, which is ultimately the most important thing.
Right. I mean, if you're
after functionality.
Right. I mean, does it keep you dry and then does it fit? Those are the two, and But
you can get into a pair of those for like $120 or something like that. Like they're not spendy.
Yeah, I mean,
$250 on the high end.
And you can get into breathables, depending on, you're not getting Simms for that, but I mean, you can definitely get into other breathables. And I mean, it's one of those things, you get what you pay for.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep, that's true.
I mean, that's one place I wouldn't, skimp on, actually, would be waders.
Right.
Because if you're going to be using them, I mean, if you're only using them for whitefish spearing, I'm not going to go buy a $300 set of waders.
Right.
But if I'm going to be using them for bear baiting all the way through whitefish salmon
fishing, everything in between.
Exactly. If I'm halfway living in them, it's worth paying that to me to be dry.
And it's an important layer, because in a lot of instances, I mean, if you're, let's say you're going on a remote fishing trip, somewhere. I mean, you might not have the ability to just go back to the truck if you get wet and cold.
And that might be your rain gear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's your rain gear layer. We see what those cost, when you start looking at some of the higher end rain gear. Boy, you really got to not want to get wet. but it's one of those things where, like, if you're just wanting to dabble a little bit, you can run that stuff just to see if you even like it. Let's say you're wanting to go spearfishing, or you're wanting to go waterfowling for the first season, and maybe you don't want to invest $800 in a pair of Simms, high end waders. Grab up the Rustic Ridge ones at Sportsman's Warehouse, and go kill some stuff.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
exactly.
And once you decide you like it and you're like, oh man, I'm doing this
Yeah.
every year, then go buy the $800 pair.
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
that's true.
Yeah, I mean, get entry level stuff. Figure out whether that's for you,
Mm-hmm.
and you may even decide I don't like this specific type of waiter, or I might want something else.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
or you're like, oh, I really sold on these, and then you see everybody else in something else, and they're like way more comfortable, and you're like, maybe I chose poorly. You know?
Right.
Yeah,
I didn't spend a month's pay to buy these things. You know.
Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
And yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Take some repair stuff with you. I mean,
Yep.
I like the UV. They make some UV repair stuff that's really handy for a lot of stuff. And then, all of the adhesive tapes. And,
Yep. The different tapes and the different sealants and stuff and patch glue. It all works good. You just got to know how to apply it.
Yep. And
Yeah.
eventually you're going to have to use it.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
It's just like using an inflatable boat, right? It's not an if, it's a when.
Yeah, it's when you're going to have to fix it. Yeah.
Or apparently even a metal one in some instances.
Yeah.
And Edwin brought up something, unfortunately, make sure you do bring extra clothes when you're doing spearfishing.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not even be you take a drink, it might be you get your arm wet trying to grab a fish before it gets off the spear, or
Sure.
splashing yourself, or whatever it is. And so yeah, definitely and take warmer gear than you think you need.
Yes.
That's a lesson learned in Alaska by everybody their first year.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this ought to be enough. No. You always bring that extra layer.
Yep. And I like to take neoprene gloves also because that way my hands stay warmer, they stay drier.
Absolutely.
And compared to just a leather pair that will get cold and wet, something that will keep my hands a little bit warmer, as the temperatures get colder out there.
Yeah.
Something else that Edwin and I do a lot is liner gloves.
Yes.
Yep.
That's a huge one, especially if you're wearing rubberized gloves, neoprene gloves, whatever. Is have them oversized to the point where you can wear liner gloves.
Yeah.
And then as your hands sweat and all those things, I mean, we probably go through 10 gloves, 5 sets in a trap line in a day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you just take them out, dry them out, wash them if they're really dirty, whatever.
Yeah.
But swapping those out, and the one downside is we use a lot of hand warmers. I mean, Chris will be happy to hear that we all use hand warmers.
Yes.
But they don't work in those rubber gloves because they need air.
Right.
Now there is a cheat to that. You can use boot style that are meant to run with less oxygen. But yeah, I mean it's hard. It is harder when you're wearing those kind of things and you're trying to work where it's cold and wet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we always do. We always carry a large number of glove liners, extra gloves, for the spearfishing, for the trapping, for the hunting, because you just never know when the gloves get wet.
Yeah.
And you got to change them out.
Well, and the liner thing, I mean, like the one brand that's coming to my mind, I think they're called Glacier gloves. They sell them at Frontier Outfitters. But they're exactly what you're describing. They're the neoprene outside.
Yes.
And then they've got a nice, cotton liner, or maybe it's not cotton, but wool, liner that you
felted.
can use.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, and you can buy extras of just the liners.
Yes.
And so if you get that liner wet, or if, whatever happens, you just slide that out, chuck it in your bag, and then put a dry liner on and get back in the glove, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed using those. They have a nice little cinch strap around the wrist too, to try and keep any water from traveling back down your wrist. Which,
Yeah, exactly.
it works about 50% of the time every time, but
yeah.
Yeah.
But it does make a big difference, especially when you're dealing with cold water, cold temperatures. Your hands being dry and warm, dry from the dry gloves, it makes a big difference.
Well, and if you have, like for me, right, you've got those like the felt line stuff, right? As soon as they get damp, no matter what you do, they're not drying out. But if you've got a liner in there and that's soaking up the perspiration, is mostly what you're going to get if your gloves are dry.
Right.
I mean, if they're doing what they're supposed to do and keeping the water out, the water that's inside is going to stay in there, but the liner gloves will soak it up, and you can just keep swapping them out.
Yep.
And I've used everything from like decoy gauntlet gloves like you're talking about, like the glacier glove style that are about wrist length.
Yep.
A lot of what I buy now for that kind of stuff is commercial fishing gloves.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, they used to just be like the orange or the blue ones that you see everybody wearing. I mean, now there's 5,000 flavors of those waterproof gloves. Some of them are lined, some of them are not. I mean,
yeah, we use a lot of them also.
yeah.
Yep. And that's an important thing when you're out there. I mean, because your fingers start getting cold. And, I don't know if we touched on this before, but, this season for this draw is it's like mid-September to mid-October is when this season runs for the spearfishing. So it's late season.
Yeah.
I mean, like you pointed out with the water freezing overnight, like, I mean, that depending on the fall that we're having,
you never know.
You never know. That
right.
could happen in September,
Yeah.
Yep.
And so you got to be aware that this water is not, temperate,
Right.
like summer running water. And even in Alaska in general, in the summertime, the water's never warm. It's not like lower 48 streams where, you might have some temperate water, but, your hands get cold and you start losing dexterity and you're not having as much fun too, is the other thing. This is the one thing I try to drive home with so many of these things where, you get the guys that are the real minimalists and they're just suffering just to suffer because it's cool, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, if you enjoy it more, you're going to want to go do it more. Or like, I mean, I hate to do it. I know we reference back to bear baiting all the time, but like it's just a thing now. I guess we're going to do it, right? You get the guys that they have these little itty bitty tree stands and they just want to go sit in those for 10 hours just to suffer. And it's like, the foot stand, the foot platform is barely bigger than your boots, like, but you get a decent platform or you get a nicer stand and it's more comfortable to sit. You're going to be more apt to do it more. I mean, and don't get me wrong,
more enjoyable.
There's already a level of suffering in everything you do in Alaska. Like you don't need to add it to be cool,
right?
Like,
what level of type 2 fun do you like?
Exactly.
Yeah. and at what point are you no longer just suffering and now you're at risk?
Yeah. Yep.
Like
hypothermia is real up here.
It is. And he was talking about something. He said the wood spearheads or wood handles, they float.
Oh,
when you drop them.
That's a good point.
Yes. And make a little hole in the back and stick a cord to it.
Yeah.
Nice lanyard.
If you lose your spear, well, at least you could get it back.
Yeah.
Did you ever use like hockey tape on your handles? Make them less slippery?
No.
It's usually just basically a broom handle with the spearhead on it I mean, and I've done like an aluminum like within added what I actually did was use the I don't know, really thin aluminum net handles.
Yeah.
And then just basically hose clamp that thing onto a wood handle.
Oh, okay.
Because I did that was what I had available, and I could only find a 6-foot broom or 5-foot broom handle, and it wasn't long enough, and so I just
make do in Alaska.
Yeah, exactly.
And like the one thing that I actually played around with was, and without going, I mean, we talked about a little bit, is the angle of refraction.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're spearing in water, if you were bow fishing, is how you have to aim, because if you're gonna be, I guess I'm trying to figure out a good way to explain it.
Like how your eyes are seeing the fish compared to the actual position of the fish.
Yeah, the angle of refraction.
Yeah.
So once it's in the water, that goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we were talking about not spooking them. If you keep it in the water, plus you have less disturbance.
Right.
But even when you're looking at it, you basically need to be below it because you're going to hit high.
Right.
Relative to relative to what you're looking at. Like the best way to explain it is if you had that spear turn sideways, which is how I would hold it, as sideways versus horizontal.
Oh, okay. So you would hold it
vertical. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
gotcha.
You've got 5 inches of up and down space, and then you don't have to worry about left and right if you're kind of aiming for the head or waiting for him, trying to time it.
Yep.
And there's 2 reasons for that. It's the gill plate. That's the perfect spot.
Yeah.
I mean,
they ain't getting off at that point.
Yeah, no.
Right. Right. And there's minimal meat damage, and it actually has something to grab. Whitefish is kind of soft. That's part of the reason it's good for smoking, is when you brine it, it firms up a little bit. But It's kind of soft. So if you
Mhm.
don't get them real good, they can come off if you get them in the body.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll hold it vertical and then bring like the bottom point to where aim that at the fish.
Mhm.
And then you got 5 inches. And obviously if you're spearing 6 feet down, that's not going to work. But
Right.
One good thing, one thing about the spearfishing that we do is we wear knit caps and neck gaiters and
Oh, okay.
a good warm jacket, because when you're standing in the water and that, and it's kind of cooler,
Oh, sure.
when you're closer to water. Always good warm clothing like that helps out a lot. You could stay out in the water a lot longer than if you just had a little hoodie on or something.
Right. Yeah. And you might not think you need it midday, but especially once the sun goes down and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
Like temperatures drop quicker around here.
Yeah, exactly. And more of the layers like that, you'll be more comfortable on the water.
And the whole thing with a layering system is you can always take it off if you don't need it.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's nice to have it when you do need it.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And most of the people, you'll see them in the dark time spearfishing, and they will do it quite late, to the early morning. So, yeah, it gets a little bit cooler during that time.
Right. On that note, and just to kind of wrap up the gear stuff, you guys have touched on headlamps quite a bit,
Yes.
in this and alternative lanterns and things like that. What would your recommendation be on a headlamp style? Or, if you have a specific brand you like, a certain lumens you like, for somebody who's looking at doing this, I'm gathering you'd want more than just your little dinky, around camp headlamp or, what you take into the crawl space.
Yeah, for me, I like the more luminous, the better.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my preference, because I like to see everything all around, and I could see the fish coming in from my right or my left,
Sure.
From a distance. So that gives me
that flood kind of.
Yes. Yeah. That way, that gives me more of a chance to make my plan on, hey, if it comes my way, how am I going to try to spear it?
Sure. So, yeah. What about you, Carl?
So I guess the first thing I would say is I like, and if I'm buying a headlamp just for spearfishing, I probably wouldn't do it, but I would buy one that has the battery pack that is not on your head.
Yes.
I would buy one that you can put in your pocket.
It's like you read my mind on that
one.
And I mean, and I use it for trapping.
Yes.
We use it all winter for all kinds of stuff. But having one where you can put the batteries in your pocket, keep them warm so they last longer.
Yep.
That's a big one. Like if I was buying a all-around headlamp for spearfishing, where you're just changing out AAAs if they get dim, probably just fine. But kind of like he said, something that has a good flood. But you want some focused light in the middle.
Sure. Yeah.
And you don't need a 100-yard range. Everything's probably within 15, 20 feet.
Right.
But I actually, if you can find one that's got the warmer temperatures, that's, everything's pretty much gone to LEDs, and most things are kind of that cool or natural light. If you can find the warmer temperature lights, that
right
actually really makes a difference, because they almost they glow.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain. And that's why the lanterns are nice. Like if you're running a Coleman lantern, propane, white gas, doesn't really matter.
Yeah. You get that warmer light tone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes sense. Because it would entirely just depend on how the light refracts off that particular fish.
Yeah.
The colors of the fish, the angle of the scales, things like that.
Yeah.
It makes sense that certain styles of light would make them pop versus other ones.
Yeah.
And people deal with that in interior design all the time. When I was an electrician and we were working with overhead lighting in a home, you would have a certain style of light you put in the kitchen versus the bedroom versus the bathroom, because it makes things look differently. So it makes perfect sense. That would apply in the wilderness too when you're trying to see things.
Well, what's funny is like one of my innovations, so to speak, was I actually hose clamped a AA mag light, one of the old style with the bulb in it, not the LED, right on that thing.
Oh, nice.
Right, and then I would keep the spearhead and the light in the water.
Nice.
And basically, with the shadow that you got from the light going over the spearhead, you had like an aiming point. It's like a red dot for spearfishing.
I love it.
But and they were waterproof, so it worked out good.
You're not going to get that tip anywhere else, folks.
But yeah, it was, and it was the right color light.
Yeah,
because it was that warmer light, and so yeah, I mean that was just played around with different stuff. I mean, I think I submerged a Surefire for a while, and I was not impressed with that.
Yeah,
the small batteries, whatever the lithium ones, they work better in the cold, but not real good in underwater.
Gotcha. Yeah. I know. As far as like the headlamps you had mentioned, that whole keeping your battery pack in your pocket thing is huge in Alaska, especially if you're planning on going on a trap line with it or something like that. One good buddy of mine and listener to the show, Gary, he's up in Venati, Alaska, and he has a YouTube channel about trapping and outdoor life and everything like that. If you want to check him out, it's Enigmatic Gwitchin on YouTube and Instagram and everything. Just give him a shout out real quick. But he really likes those the Phoenix headlamps.
I have one of those.
Yeah, and he turned me on to those, and the reason is it's because you can get that extended cable, and then you take the battery pack off the head strap, and you keep that inside your bibs or inside your coat, keep that battery warm, and you can run them for way longer when that battery is not exposed to negative temperatures or even honestly even anything below freezing.
You can thank dog mushers for that. They're the ones that really kind of figured all of that out about running headlamps in the cold and the dark, and having that stuff where it's portable and I mean, and that would be an option if you were looking, is go to some of the places that support dog mushing and look at headlamps and places like that if you want some really good. I mean, but you're gonna pay for them. I mean, they're not gonna be.
Oh yeah,
it's not your $30, $25 Energizer from.
I mean, I got them pulled up on my phone right now, and I mean the HP 35R, which is one of their high performing. I think it's 4,000 lumen max on that one. I mean, that's $230. But it'll do anything you want all year long in Alaska.
Yeah,
for better than your standard will.
I mean, one consideration if you're buying a headlamp is rechargeable versus not.
Yes. Yeah.
And
sometimes there's benefits to both.
Right.
Yeah.
What is it? The 18650s?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's kind of my go-to because you can get the rechargeables.
Yeah.
But you can also put, we'll say you had 2 of those 18650s. That's 4 of the CR123As.
Mm-hmm.
So you can stack those and have replacement batteries.
Yeah.
And still have the rechargeable capability, or you can get the rechargeable CR123As.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going out where you don't have electricity all the time, you want something with batteries that you can replace.
Yes.
And if it's a daily thing or something like that, you want rechargeables because you don't want to be paying for batteries
right. Especially those ones. I mean, those
aren't
specialty
cheap.
Batteries. Yeah, they're not cheap at all.
So that would be a consideration I would have if I was investing in more than $25-$30 in a headlamp. And there's perks to having those cheap headlamps everywhere, every vehicle.
Oh yeah,
every door at the house.
Well, and that's just it, And we were talking earlier about redundancy, right? And I headlamps is one of those areas I love redundancy.
Yep.
And so like with these Phoenix ones, they're great and they're high lumen and they've got the removable battery pack, but they're bulky. They're big. And I've also got my little Black Diamond one. It's like $80 at Sportsman's. It's great, has good battery life. It has the lock off feature, so you have to push a button combination to get it to turn on. So it's not going to turn on while it's in your bino harness or your backpack or anything. And that's a great redundant backup. Now it might not be what you want going into something like this, where you need a lot more flood, maybe a lot more spot, and a combo flood spot thing. But it's a great thing to have on you when your main headlamp dies and you're just trying to walk back to the truck, or you're trying to finish cutting this moose up. And
100% a dimmable headlamp.
Oh yeah.
Like if you're sitting there looking at 8 different options and trying to figure out which one in the same price range you want, get the one with a dimmable option.
Yeah.
And if it has a red light, I've got mixed opinions on red light for things, but there's definitely pros to it.
Have you noticed a filter type? I know you said, that with the warmer light tones make these fish pop. Have you noticed, have you played around with like the red setting on a headlamp, or like if there's like a filter you can put on for these fish, like to make them pop better than the white LED?
I haven't played around with that really, as far as, if they're, if you're spooking fish with the light, but
not as far as spooking, as far as like making them pop, the way you were talking about, like with how the warm light makes them show up better and glow versus the white LED, I don't think they're going to, I don't think they're too worried about spooking them.
Yeah.
No, I guess I haven't. That's getting into it a little bit. Yeah. I mean, usually it's one night.
Right.
Or if you're, selective or picky or whatever, just your first time won't be one night unless you're really out there going hard. But
right.
Yeah, like me.
Exactly.
I mean, and you want your limit. Right?
Yeah.
If you're going for the experience, one night might be enough for you.
Right. Right.
So, yeah. It is very fun though.
It is.
It's very fun. It's something really neat to see, because you're not the only ones out there. That you see a whole bunch of different people out there. They're enjoying. They're having a good time.
Yeah.
The fish is a bonus, but also just it's one of your last chances to go out before the snow comes.
Sure.
Camping and all that. So
get out on the water one last time.
Exactly.
Yep. Right on.
Yeah.
Let's take our last break real quick, and we'll continue with some more questions.
Okay.
Hammer Bullets produces what we at the Northern Hunter consider to be the most premium and best working monolithic bullets on the market today. These bullets are easy to load, extremely accurate, and best of all, they're always in stock and ready to ship. The guys at Hammer designed them so that after penetrating the hide of an animal, it sheds its petals, initiating a massive energy dump while retaining the rear shank for maximum penetration. These bullets are built with 100% focus on how they perform on game, and their proprietary designs produce great BCs with specialized pressure grooves for amazing inherent accuracy and speed. They have a minimum expansion velocity of 1,800 feet per second, which allows for long-range shots, but with no maximum velocity, making them perfect for every cartridge from your granddaddy's old 30-30 to the high-velocity round like the Weatherby 30-378 without having to worry about your bullet failing. To view their expansive selection and find the perfect match for your hunting needs, go to hammerbullets.com and use discount code TheNorthernHunter to drop the hammer on your next adventure. All right, so let's wrap this one up with a little more of the methods of fishing. I think the gear selection is awesome. I think that'll line a lot of these guys out, especially if they're drawing this tag for the first time. But you guys have mentioned some things, throughout this episode where I kind of want to pick your brains a little more on a few of these details. And I guess for starters, we've talked a lot about the fact that you're doing this at night, and with spotlights and things like that.
Yes.
Can you go into why you do it at night versus during the day? Is that a visual thing? Is that a fish behavioral thing? Is that...
It's more of a visual thing.
Okay.
Like Carl was saying earlier, you could see like their eyes and their body shape a lot better during the night than you can during the day.
Mm-hmm.
And for some weird reason, it seems like they don't get spooked as much.
Okay. Yeah.
So
the light doesn't spook them off or anything like that. They don't try to avoid the light by any means.
You try not to keep the light directly on them. You just keep a little bit edge of the light on them, and till they get to where you're able to spear them, and then you try to spear them and get one.
Gotcha.
And just keep the flow of the light, going sideways slowly with it. Don't make any fast movements with it, because then it'll scare them and they'll take off.
Sure.
So just always slow movements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of the same thing I would say. I've actually gone out there and fly fished for whitefish. Not, obviously not on the permit or anything like that. And hey, it's challenging. And they're like, those whitefish are going to hold up in those real deep holes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what they're like. They move more when it gets dark.
Okay. Yeah.
And probably a little safer.
Yeah.
If you're a fish moving somewhere under the cover of darkness where you don't have birds trying to grab you, is probably a good thing.
Well, and Chris was pointing that out with the dip netting.
Mm-hmm.
He normally dip nets at night.
Yeah.
And he said he's had a lot more success with, pulling in 6 at a time, whatnot on his nets, at night compared to during the day. And with a similar thing, you know, whether it's from predators or just ease of movement or being able to see, you know, things like that.
I think a lot of that is the water level.
Yeah.
I think how the water fluctuates, you know, during the day and it lags
Mm-hmm.
from runoff. I think that's a big one actually.
Yep.
I don't know how much it has to do with light so much there where it's a flowing river of concrete, but
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, in the daytime, it to me it seems like it's very difficult to try to see them fish during the day.
Sure.
But in the nighttime, they stand out quite a bit compared to being able to see them in the daytime.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I think they are moving. I think they probably move through the shallows more, which is, you know, obviously way simpler.
Yeah.
You know, as far as water, like picking out which water, that's kind of a tricky one because it's easier in deep water. It's easier where they're, you know, they're holed up in an eddy, you know, taking a breather or whatever.
Because whitefish are migratory, right?
Yeah.
So they're moving the same way salmon would and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but they do not die.
Right.
I mean, they're going to spawn and go back and return to the, you know,
correct. Yeah.
tributaries and, you know, I mean, wherever they're like, you know, probably like in this case into Minto Flats and probably down into the Yukon or, you know, Tanana, maybe even into the Yukon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that like picking out the water, right? In that deep water, you've got to have enough inertia to skewer that thing and not pin it to the bottom. And usually that's where it's effective is when you can stick it to the bottom and just kind of hold it there for a couple seconds, let it do its little, you know, death wriggles and, you know.
How fast do they die when you spear them?
Quite fast.
Yeah.
Whenever I spear them, I try to get them up on the shore as quick as possible. So, like Carl says, I'll give them a couple seconds on the bottom, and then as soon as I finish with that, then I try to right away lift them up and out of the water as quick as possible to get them up on the shore.
Yeah.
And that way I could get better control of getting them and then, you know, putting them on a line.
Yep, that makes good sense.
One technique that is kind of, you know, seems intuitive, but it isn't always, is make sure you point that, like, as you're bringing it up through the water, you point it upstream. So that you're kind of pushing that thing further on there rather than letting the
current pull it off.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good pointer too. Yeah.
You know, because I mean, and I'm sure there's wounding loss and whatever. I don't know how many fish get stuck and get away or die.
Right.
You know, and I'm sure there's some calculation that the managers are using for that. But yeah, I mean that's probably because once again, if you're in deep water, it's but how do you just got to stick it and then get it out of the water real fast.
Right.
Keep the momentum on it. Once you commit to bringing it out of the water, you keep that momentum on it. So that way it just, like Carl said, keeps the pressure on them until you get them right away out to the shore.
And when you're lifting them up, I'm assuming you're not pulling backwards.
No.
You know, you kind of want to do like a shovel scoop.
Yes.
Kind of,
Yes, and keep that pressure on them.
Yep.
Yeah, and just, you know, like I said, pin them to the bottom, let them shake it all out, and then move them while they're not trying to swim off of the thing.
Sure. Yep. Let them settle out a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then jump up for joy that you got one, that you were successful.
Yeah. Hoot and holler a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
As far as success rates go, I mean, would you say it for the first, like if you're just walking out there for your first time and you're looking for a spot to set up, would you recommend going to some shallows at night, or would you recommend looking for those deeper pools?
I would probably say the shallows, so you could at least see fish. Because most people, if they see fish, it gives them confidence and that, hey, I have a chance to get them and
sure.
That. So I would think something like that where they're able to see more fish, you know.
Yeah, makes it a more target-rich environment kind of thing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, in all honesty, you're going to miss a bunch.
Oh, yeah, no matter who you are.
You're going to miss a bunch.
Yes.
Yeah, and so having more opportunity is better than not. You know, just trying to figure that out, you know, and you know, get an idea of, like, I mean, and it's some of it's like, okay, cool, I'm going to pick out this rock and then I'm going to try and touch it with the spearhead and figure out how off it really is.
Yeah.
when you're doing that, and trying to just get a feel for it a little bit.
Right.
Yeah,
It changes.
yeah, and if you're not sure, you can always go and watch some of the other people spearing and see how they're doing it and their methods are, or talk to them and ask them, hey, what do I have to do? This is my first time doing it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn. And most of the people there will be pretty nice to you and try to help you out because they want to see you get fish also. So.
Right. Well, and that's kind of the good thing I've noticed with some of these like personal use endeavors, especially when it's not super combat related fishing style. I mean, sometimes like down, say, in Chitina, right? When you're shoulder to shoulder with people, everybody's upset, everybody's cramped, they might not be as open and willing, but if you can get down there when there's not as many people or something like that, and you can talk to people. One thing that I was really pleased about, like with this year, I ended up getting stuck in Anchorage for work for a little while, and anybody that knows me knows I do not like cities. I'm not a city guy. I don't like traffic. I don't like crowds. I don't like, there's a reason I live where I do. And even this place is too big for me most of the time, but you got to be where the money is. So, so I started looking and I'm like, okay, what can I do down here that is, a little outdoorsy? Well, Ship Creek was there, right? And you can go flossing for salmon in that creek. And so I booked myself a hotel that was nearby so I could just walk down, and then, but I'd never fished that creek. And, that one is kind of unique in the sense that it's a creek, a river, and a lake, depending on what time of day you're there, and it's tidal water, right? So the tide comes up and fills everything in, and then at the low tide, everything's draining back out. And that's exactly what I did. I for the first night I was there, I just walked up and down the banks and watched people fish. And I knew what the tides were that night, and I knew what the tides were going to be the next day to compare, how people were fishing at this time of the tides when I'm going to be able to hit it. And, I talked to a couple of guys. I talked to some guys at the bait shack down there. They got me lined out with some great stuff. Just figured out, where to go, what to do, how to do it. And I mean, everybody was so kind, and just helping each other out. If one guy had one on the line and a different guy had a net, he'd run down and help the guy net his fish in, and like, it was great to see that. And that's a wonderful thing about Alaska is like, you pointed out at the beginning, if you just ask, most people want to take you out or at least show you how to do something.
Yeah, exactly. They want to see you be successful and have a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all want that. So
exactly. Yeah. Don't be shy to ask. If you got questions, do not be shy to ask.
Yep. And most of the people will help you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And if they don't, ask the next guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that guy's a one-off. Right?
Yeah.
Well, and something like that where it's not like you're taking opportunity from somebody else.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a limited number of permits. Yeah, it's not limited. It's not like if you get one more fish, they don't get that. I mean, they're stuck at 10 fish anyway. So
right. Yep.
And once again, it's not like you're going to subsist off of this for the whole winter. I mean, it's 10 fish. So
yeah. Yep. But I like these little things where, like you said, it's, if all you get is one moose for the season, don't get me wrong, you can live off that, but now you got moose and like event. And sometimes you want a little bit of variety. Like smoked whitefish or some salmon or, some bear sausage or something. It's nice to have that variety there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and it's not a huge time investment from what I'm gathering.
No.
It sounds like,
Yeah, it's more of a, people going out, having that last chance of having a good time, going camping, have a nice little fire going, and just enjoying. And, if you get some fish, then great. Then you got some good smoking fish there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and there's all kinds of, it's like you said, it's just kind of fun to hang out and, kind of wander around and talk to people, and everybody's having a good time. And,
got fires set up. And
yeah, you see families out there. A lot of families go out there. They're just having that last opportunity to go out camping and have fun and enjoy. And then you feel good if you could spear a fish. You got them bragging rights that I was able to spear one.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's a cool kind of unique thing to get to go do. If you're fortunate enough to draw the tag, and draw the permit. So.
Yeah. And then, I'm just like trying to think of other things that, technique wise. I mean, the one thing is trying to be lower
Oh yeah.
Like look, the more you're
So I'm screwed, is what you're telling me.
no, it's about the angle that you're looking at it, right?
Yeah,
The more vertical, like if you're looking down at your feet,
Mm-hmm.
they're not off as far as something that's further out because it's like 20 degrees, something like that is the angle of refraction for
Right.
water. So, the lower that is to start with, the
Easier to aim.
easier it is to aim, and
As long as you don't hit your foot.
as long as you don't hit your foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then keep that thing sharp.
Yeah.
That would be the other thing is, go stand by the fire, pull out a little file or, whatever, a Leatherman file, a hook file, something cheap. You're probably going to lose it.
Yep.
If it's, and then, go warm up by the fire for a little bit and,
And it's pretty amazing because a lot of them fish are within a foot, 2 foot from the shore.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
a lot of times you don't even have to go in the water. Like I was saying about Kyle being right behind me and he's knocking them dead.
Yeah.
And I keep looking back and he gets another and then another. And,
Yep.
And, so it's not like you have to go very deep in. So you just have to watch and eventually they will come to you.
Yep. Well, and one other thing I'd point out, I haven't done this particular style of fishing, but like reference back to like dip netting, right?
Yep.
Is like being flexible with your location is also a big factor of success. Don't commit, to one spot if you're not being successful there.
Or being too stubborn to change.
Yeah.
Or adapt to what is going on. If
Yep.
you go to the standard spot and nobody's there,
Mm-hmm.
go give it a look.
Yeah.
But there might be a reason that nobody's there.
Exactly. And the same thing like that, if somebody walks out and let's say they go thigh deep in the water and they're not seeing fish, and, but you had your buddy behind you, but if you're not seeing fish right there, like maybe walk back towards shore a little bit, look there, just kind of move around until you find what's going to make you successful.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and it's time dependent too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just like a salmon run or anything else, it might be 10 o'clock and you're standing there and nothing's happening. And at 10:30, there might be fish running by.
Sure. Yep.
You got to have somebody out there scouting for you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Team effort.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun if you have, like 3 or 4 people and you're all out there hanging out and, I wouldn't care. I'd go out there and hold a lantern for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
It'd just be fun.
Yeah.
It is fun.
Yeah.
And again, kind of like the Chitina dip netting personal use, this is a household personal use
Yes.
ticket, right? So if you got kids, wife, whatever you want to bring out with you, you can bring out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the coolest things I seen when I was out there was I was spearing, not having too much of luck. And this little kid walks right by me, and then you hear him say, "I got one," and he speared one right next to me with a little spear. And I thought that was so cool, Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And I guess the one thing that people will try and it's not worth it is trying to like throw this thing.
Yeah.
Even if you do have it like tied off or
Mm-hmm.
having a longer handle that you can control is,
Sure.
I guess if you're a professional javelin thrower, you might be able to spear fish on the other side of the river or something, but
Yeah, but it's all for fun,
Right, right, yeah.
You're having a great time, and you're going to miss them. Eventually you're going to spear one. So
Yep.
You just don't quit. You just
don't get all worked up about it. And,
exactly.
Take a lawn chair. So you got someplace to sit down and warm up on the beach.
Yep.
Yeah, have that little fire there, enjoying, and when it's time to go back out, go out and try it again.
Yeah. What size would you say most of these whitefish are? as far as the ones you get,
probably around what, 10 inches, maybe.
Yeah, some of like the Cisco's are probably less than a foot or all the way up to 5-6 pounds even.
Okay. Yeah.
You could come home with 50 pounds of fish if you were selectively harvesting.
Right, right.
The humpies are pretty big.
Yeah.
Are they? Yeah.
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 But, I'm kind of with Edwin. The Cisco's are
my favorite.
Yeah. Is that for just the flavor, the
Yes.
flavor profile?
Yeah.
The flavor for me when I smoke them, I like that a lot better.
Yeah, they absorb it better.
Yes.
And, yeah.
Yeah, and they're smaller, obviously.
Yes.
Harder to hit that small target.
More of a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, and I think the texture is a little different too. I think
Mm.
that's the other thing is I think like the humpies are a little softer, but
Mm-hmm.
everybody,
Yeah.
Has their preference.
yeah.
Of what they
Well,
like.
that and you can't be too picky if you're just starting out.
Exactly.
Take the and just make sure that because grayling don't shine.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Right, and you're going to see that big dorsal fin if you're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Don't spear those, and sheefish they look like a herring.
Yeah.
Like that's the only way to explain it is they have a bigger mouth. That's the
Mhm.
biggest thing. And they're bigger. They're significantly bigger. I mean, at the point where sheefish is going to spawn is it's probably starting in that 5-6 pound range. I mean, I don't know, maybe smaller than that, but they're significantly bigger, and they just swim different.
Yeah.
One of the big things is when you get your permit, is they're going to send you a picture identification of the different whitefish that you can get and what you can't get.
Yeah.
So that's one big thing that helps out quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So you know which ones you can spear.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's some educational literature you can
Yes.
get.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know that there's anybody that's spent a bunch of time really dissecting down, identifying the different whitefish.
Mm-hmm.
Like on a like a YouTube video or something like that. But I mean, there's definitely some biologists out there that can kind of really give you pointers if you're looking for one type of fish versus another, things like that. But
Well, and from the sounds of it too, I mean, it's not a trying to find the right words, not like a high risk activity of like, this is my meat for the year kind of thing,
Oh, no.
So like, if you're new to it, it's your first time drawing the tag and you've never spearfished anything else, it sounds like you've got time to kind of watch and figure out, okay, that's what a grayling looks like, or okay, that's how a sheefish swims, or this is the one I can, and kind of learn the system, and it's like, I'm sure like everything, your first time doing it, it's going to be slow. You're going to be figuring it out. And then the second time doing it's a little faster. Third time's even faster, and eventually it's just secondhand, and you're just like going for it. And, I mean, everything's that way in life.
Yeah, that's true.
But it sounds like, with something like this, it's 10 fish that aren't going to, it's something that's fun to do, not necessarily, it's a top off on the freezer, not a filling the freezer kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, it definitely, and it's just fun. It's recreational at the end of the day.
Yep.
Yeah, you'll have a great time doing it.
Yeah. Do they change the start dates per year? Because I know all the verbiage on Fishing Game's website is like mid-September to mid-October. And I don't know if they're wording it that way because like the start times can change per year, or maybe they close for emergency order early some years or something like that. Or is that something to watch for? Is like,
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think it's just, you start trying to pile in too much information in a small space, and most of it gets lost anyway.
right. Yeah.
So put the pertinent information in there. It's by permit only. So
Yeah, I'm sure when you get the permit, it gives you the
Yeah,
date
it
and
does.
everything like that.
yeah, make sure you turn it in. You won't be able to get one the next year if you don't.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
like your hunting permits.
Sure. Yep. And the whole fishing at night thing, that's not regulated, right? That's just a best practice kind of thing. But it's not like there's a 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. start time or a stop time. It's just,
when it's dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anybody that, like I said, I fly fish for them during the day.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know anybody that's actually tried to spear them during the day. I think that'd be.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's other fish you can spear in Alaska too. You can do pike in certain circumstances, fisheries, what have you.
Yeah.
I think suckers.
Mm-hmm.
Some different things like that. But
yeah, I'd like to figure out how to do some pike spearing. That sounds like fun. I know in some parts of the lower 48, the upper Midwest areas, you can, spearfish for muskies and whatnot and stuff like that. And, you always kind of hear, different things back and forth of like, they're looking at getting rid of that because of fish identification issues with people going out there and spearing the wrong kinds of fish and whatnot. Whether it's pike or muskies or whatever it might be. And, but I don't know. It seems like something that'd be cool to do up here. And all we have up here, really, as far as pike-looking fishes, is northern pike. So we wouldn't really have those problems.
Well, and most places where there's pike, there's burbot, which I think are open to spearing too.
I believe you're right. Yeah.
I haven't memorized that in a while, but
well, we always tell everybody to double check for themselves before they go out.
And I mean, yes,
saying you heard it on this show is not going to get you out of trouble.
but yeah, and there's definitely. I mean, usually you do pike through the ice.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that's a whole different kind of system that you need, from getting your blocks of ice out and your techniques, and do you push the ice under the ice or do you pull it out on top? What do you
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about 3 feet of ice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, ice gets pretty thick around here. I remember the first time I needed an extension on my auger. And I was like, oh man, I got myself into something here. But
when you got to start your hole standing on the tailgate of your truck to be able to
to get through the ice.
To get through the ice.
The cheap little Walmart one ain't doing the trick anymore.
Yeah, right. You stand on there until you get it down to head height, and then you run it some more. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's and that's the thing about like all of these different ventures. It's one more thing you can do.
Yep. Exactly.
One more thing to figure out and just play with and just enjoy the outdoors. That's and especially like you said, I mean, and that's one thing I love about moose season, is it's kind of the same thing. It's that last chance to go out and really do some camping when you still have enjoyable weather to do it in.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you live here long enough, you're going to end up doing some winter camping too. It's
just
done
that.
It's a thing you do.
Yeah.
But
whether you were prepared or not.
Exactly. But there's definitely an enjoyable time of year to camp around that time. Crisp in the mornings, but still have some nice days.
Yeah.
I guess my last question, as far as the spearfishing goes, have you noticed a better time within that window that they're running? Like, is it like do they seem to run heavier towards that October side, or more? It doesn't seem to matter really.
After moose season.
Right. When you're done with everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, depending on the year you're having, if it's getting cold, sooner rather than later.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I've tried to go the last weekend of the season and it was frozen, woke up frozen, I mean, or it's all slushy and you can't get out to where the fish, I mean, they're running under the ice, and even if you could be there, they're behind you, and, so yeah, I don't know that I would say that it's better or worse. I mean, it's probably target the middle of it, maybe early October, something like that.
Yeah.
We kind of do that. We kind of go out there and do little runs to see what the water's like and see if anybody's seeing any fish and how things are going. And then we kind of go from there, just keep going a little bit longer.
Yeah. That's kind of the benefit of it not being like a crazy distance from town too.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You can go out on an evening when let's say you got your moose earlier in the year or something like that, or you can go out and it's not an excursion to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
you could go there, come back within, a little bit of time and be back home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not going to try and cover the whole area, but I mean, there is a defined area for that too.
Yes. Yeah.
But when you get your permit, they'll explain that if you're.
Is it just based on mile markers and stuff like that of like what section of the river, like between this and that?
I think it's between 2 bridges.
Okay. Yeah.
Or a bridge and a gate, or bridge and a road. I can't. I mean, I know what it is. I just don't know how it's worded.
Right.
Off the top of my head.
Yeah, they give you a map.
Yeah.
A map when you print out your permit.
Yeah.
Or you go get one from them, they'll give it to you.
Yeah. And pretty much every permit in Alaska is that way. Yeah. Once you get it, then you get all the information and everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that they have maps on. I don't know if it would cover this section at all, but I know that Fishing Game's website has some really good detailed maps.
Yeah,
that line out like borders of areas.
Yeah, they
with
don't
specific hunts and things like that.
Yeah, I don't think they have that.
I doubt they would have it for spearfishing.
Spearfishing, yeah.
But like if you're looking in an area in the regs for like a hunt, let's say, and you're looking at, let's say they separate 20B into several different areas, right? And you're looking for this particular area of 20B, like where is the border technically for that? There are maps on Fishing Game's website that show you the direct border of that specific area it's talking about. And it's really helpful. It's really good resource.
Very distinctive terrain features of where the borders are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To let you know exactly where.
Yep.
I mean, and I guess, without really diverting the conversation too far, the reason that all of the borders here, for the most part, are written the way they are is because most of the time you're not relying on, it's not this section of land or this river or this road, these two county roads and then the highway or whatever, because the highway may only be one boundary and then it's going to have to be geographic markers after that.
Sure. Yeah.
And they don't really change. I mean, they kind of do, sometimes with the rivers, North Bank, South Bank, stuff like that. But it's all done off of geography because it's more consistent than a non-existent road.
And it's a lot less open to interpretation.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's a good point. All right. Well, you gentlemen got anything else you'd like to point out with spearfishing?
No, just good luck to everybody that's going out there spearfishing and have fun.
Well,
yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for hanging in there with us, everybody listening. We hope if you drew this tag or this permit, then you are heading out there to have a good time and you're going to, really enjoy what you're doing. Definitely, if you're listening to this episode and you know somebody that drew that tag, send this episode to them. This is one that, I haven't found a lot of other resources on. So thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your expertise and your experiences doing this. If you're listening to the show and you'd like to help us out, remember the easiest way to help us, doesn't cost you a dime, is with a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening to us on. 5 stars is always best, and written reviews really help the algorithm push the show in front of a new audience. And it's the only method we use for getting the show in front of new people. We don't do any kind of marketing that we pay for. So if you'd like to help us out with shopping from some of our partners, we've got all of our great partners, links, and discount codes in the show notes of this show. You can go check them out there and get some good discounts on some gear. We've got Troy Sessions with the 60-inch club. He's got some great gear as far as rentals and game bags for this season. We've got Stealthy Hunter. They've got a lot of great rifle covers and glassing pads and things. I mean, might be a little late for this season, but it's all good stuff. And we've all got discount codes. You get yourself a discount. Helps them, helps us, and gets us to making more content. So we appreciate everybody that helps out. We've also got our shop with merch logo gear. So if you would like to rock the Northern Hunter logo, we'd appreciate it. And if you send us a picture, we'd love to see it. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up for this week. Thank you, gentlemen, for sitting in, spending your afternoon with me here, and sharing your expertise. We really appreciate it. So, and to everybody listening, until next week, get out there, get after it. Good luck. We'll see you there.